I woke up to the rhythmic crash of waves against the shore, a sound I had come to cherish in the years since we moved into this cozy beach house in Santa Monica. The salty morning air drifted through the slightly open window, carrying with it memories I thought I had buried. Memories of Daniel. He was gone, had been for years, but sometimes the sound of the ocean or a fleeting scent in the breeze would bring him rushing back. Daniel and I had been together for nearly a decade before he left for Europe. Leo, our son, was only 6 then. The heartbreak had been sharp and lingering, like a piece of glass lodged too deep to remove. But over time, I learned to breathe around it. Life had to move forward, and Leo and I built something solid, something ours, out of the remnants Daniel left behind. I stretched, the early sunlight spilling into my room, highlighting the imperfections on the walls and the sand perpetually tracked inside. This house wasn't much by Santa Monica standards, but it was home. More importantly, it was where Leo and I had grown into something more than just mother and son. We were a team. Leo, now 23, had a passion for photography. That camera of his had become an extension of his hand, a tool he used to tell stories through light and shadow. He always said it was his way of freezing time, capturing emotions that words couldn't. I admired his creativity, though I sometimes worried about his tendency to live more in his viewfinder than in the moment. Just as I was about to pour my first cup of tea, Leo appeared in the doorway, camera slung casually around his neck. His enthusiasm was infectious, even before caffeine. "Mom," he said, his hazel eyes sparkling with excitement, "the light outside right now? Perfect. Come with me to the beach. I need to catch it." I hesitated, glancing at the steaming mug in my hand. "Leo, it's barely morning. Can't your creative genius wait until I've had some tea?" He grinned. "Nope. Inspiration doesn't wait. And I'd really like you to come with me. Please." How could I say no? Placing the mug on the counter, I grabbed a cardigan and followed him out. The morning air was crisp, the sand cool underfoot. Leo walked a few paces ahead, his camera already clicking as he scanned the horizon for the perfect shot. "You know, you could try enjoying the view without the lens," I teased. He laughed. "This is how I enjoy it, Mom. Besides, someone has to preserve these moments." We walked in companionable silence for a while, the ocean stretching endlessly before us. Leo paused occasionally, crouching or adjusting his angle to capture the interplay of light and water. Watching him work was like seeing a painter with a brush, focused, intentional, and completely in his element. After a while, he turned to me, his expression soft. "I've been thinking about Dad lately." The mention of Daniel was sudden, but not unwelcome. "Oh?" I asked, my voice careful. "Yeah, not in a bad way. Just remembering things, like how he used to sing when he thought no one was listening, or the way he'd pretend to hate your cooking but always cleaned his plate." I smiled, though the nostalgia was bittersweet. He had his moments. Leo adjusted his camera strap, his gaze steady. "You've done more for me than he ever could have. I hope you know that." His words hit me harder than I expected. "Thank you, Leo. That means a lot." Before I could say more, he leaned in and kissed me gently on the cheek, his warmth grounding me in the moment. "I mean it," he said softly. "Hey," he added, lifting his camera, "step into the frame for a second." I laughed. "Oh no, I don't do pictures." "Come on," he insisted. "It's just for me. No one else will see it, I promise." Reluctantly, I stepped into the shot. At first, I felt awkward, unsure of how to stand or where to look. But Leo's encouragement, gentle and genuine, put me at ease. For a moment, it wasn't about the camera or the picture. It was just us, mother and son, caught in the golden light of a new day. Leo's excitement was palpable as we made our way along the shoreline, the early sun casting everything in a warm, golden glow. The waves rolled in gently, the soft rush of water blending with the cries of distant seagulls. I followed his movements as he darted from one spot to another, his camera poised, ready to capture the perfection he saw in the interplay of light and shadow. He was in his element, completely absorbed in his work. Occasionally, he would pause to examine the beach or the horizon, adjusting his lens with precision. It struck me how much he had grown, not just in years but in confidence. Watching him reminded me of Daniel. The thought rose unbidden, carried by the rhythm of the waves and the scent of salt in the air. Memories of Daniel were like snapshots in my mind, fragmented and vivid. I thought of how he once loved mornings like this, standing by the shore with a thoughtful expression, as if trying to decipher some secret hidden in the sea. Those days felt distant now, like a story from another life. As Leo continued his work, I reflected on how much our lives had changed since Daniel left. There was no bitterness anymore, only a quiet acceptance of the life Leo and I had built together. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. At one point, Leo turned his camera toward me. I felt a wave of hesitation as I stood there, unsure of how to present myself. But there was something reassuring about the way he worked, a quiet confidence that made me feel less self-conscious. The lens wasn't an intruder, it was a bridge. He moved with an ease that I couldn't help but admire, giving gentle cues that I instinctively followed. I could feel the morning sun warming my skin, the sand cool beneath my feet, and the breeze brushing through my hair. It wasn't just a photograph he was taking, it was a moment he wanted to preserve. After he finished, we walked back to the house together. The morning air was lighter now, the sun climbing higher in the sky. The sand clung to my feet as we left the shore, a reminder of the fleeting, grounding connection to the earth. Inside, the house was still filled with the scent of the tea I'd left behind. Leo's camera rested on the kitchen counter, a silent testament to his morning's work. There was an unspoken gratitude between us, a shared understanding that moments like these were what truly mattered. It wasn't just about the photographs or the morning light, it was about the bond we shared. For all the challenges life had thrown at us, we had found a way to hold on to each other. And in that, I found a quiet pride, knowing that we had built something beautiful together, one moment at a time. The rest of the morning passed quietly. I busied myself with chores around the house while Leo reviewed the photos he had taken. His focus was unwavering, his laptop open and camera tethered, as he clicked through the images with an intensity one admired. It wasn't unusual for him to immerse himself this way, dissecting each frame with care. But today, there was something different in his demeanor, an extra layer of purpose. He paused often, studying certain shots longer than usual. I tried not to intrude, but curiosity got the better of me. From where I stood, I could see glimpses of the photos he'd taken. The images captured the beach in its morning glory, the softness of the waves, the warm hues of the sand, the interplay of light and shadow. And then there were the portraits of me. Seeing myself on his screen was unsettling at first. I barely recognized the woman in those photos. She seemed so at ease, so present in the moment. It was a version of me I hadn't seen in years, hidden beneath layers of routine and responsibility. Leo must have noticed me lingering because he suddenly suggested a new idea. He wanted to take more portraits of me, but this time at home. I hesitated, unsure if I wanted to be the center of his creative vision. But his determination was hard to resist, and there was something about the way he spoke of his work, how it was about storytelling, about seeing people as they truly were, that made me curious. He began setting up his makeshift studio in the living room, adjusting the lighting and moving furniture to create the perfect backdrop. I watched him work, his movements precise and thoughtful, and wondered how I had raised someone so talented and driven. When everything was ready, he gestured for me to sit. At first, I felt awkward and exposed. It wasn't easy to be on this side of the lens, especially with my son as the photographer. But Leo had a way of putting me at ease, his quiet encouragement helping me relax little by little. He adjusted the angles, the lighting, and even suggested small movements, a tilt of the head here, a softer expression there. I let myself follow his guidance, trying not to overthink. As the session went on, I started to feel less like a subject and more like myself. There was a strange power in letting go, in allowing someone else to see you so fully. The camera wasn't just capturing my face, it was capturing the years of love, struggle, and growth that had shaped me into the person I was now. When Leo finally put the camera down, he looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite place. It wasn't just pride, it was something deeper, something that made me feel truly seen. I didn't ask to see the photos yet. I wasn't ready, but in that moment I didn't need to. For the first time in years, I felt like I was rediscovering parts of myself I thought I had lost. And it wasn't just through the lens of Leo's camera, it was through his eyes, his belief in me, and the quiet, unspoken love we shared. The morning sun poured through the curtains, casting a soft, golden light across the room. It was my birthday, though I hadn't mentioned it to anyone. Over the years, birthdays had become quieter affairs. Small acknowledgments, a cup of tea, a moment to reflect. But this year felt different, even before I stepped out of bed. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee wafted into my room, accompanied by the faint clinking of dishes. I smiled to myself, knowing Leo was behind it. Sure enough, moments later, he appeared in the doorway, balancing a tray with a practiced ease. On it was a simple yet thoughtful breakfast, toast, fruit, and my favorite tea. Nestled beside the plate was a small, carefully wrapped box. "Happy birthday, Mom," he said, his voice warm and full of affection. I propped myself up on the pillows, surprised and touched. As I unwrapped the box, my hands lingered on the delicate paper, savoring the moment. Inside was a set of soft, elegant clothes, a light blouse, a pair of tailored trousers, and a matching scarf in shades of muted blue. Beneath them was a smaller box, which I opened to find a beautiful set of undergarments, simple yet luxurious. For a moment, I was at a loss for words. The thoughtfulness of the gift, the way each piece seemed chosen with care, brought a lump to my throat. I reached out and kissed Leo on the cheek, my gratitude spilling out in the gesture. "These are beautiful," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Leo smiled, his eyes lighting up at my reaction. "I thought you might like something special for today."
"And?"
"I was hoping you'd let me photograph you in the new scarf, and maybe the hat I got for you last week." I laughed softly, still touched by his kindness. "Of course, Leo. How could I say no after this?" After breakfast, I took my time getting ready, savoring the feel of the new clothes. The blouse fit perfectly, its fabric light and flowing against my skin. The trousers hugged me comfortably, and the scarf tied it all together, its soft texture brushing against my neck. When I stepped into the living room, Leo had already set up his studio. He'd cleared the space and adjusted the lighting to perfection, as he always did. The hat, a wide-brimmed one he'd insisted on buying me during a recent outing, was waiting on the arm of the couch. Leo gestured toward the chair he'd placed in the center of the room. "Just sit there for now," he said, his tone gentle but focused. I removed my cardigan, draping it over the back of the couch, and eased into the chair. The pose felt stiff at first, my hands resting awkwardly on my lap. But Leo's quiet encouragement soon had me adjusting, crossing one leg over the other, tilting my head slightly to the side. He handed me the hat, and I placed it on my head carefully, feeling its brim cast a playful shadow over my face. Leo circled me with his camera, capturing every angle, every nuance. His directions were soft and unobtrusive, guiding me into poses that felt natural yet composed. I leaned slightly forward at one point, my elbow resting on my knee, the scarf cascading over my shoulder. Then, at his suggestion, I turned to look over my shoulder, the sunlight catching the subtle shimmer of the fabric. There was something intimate about the process, not just the act of being photographed, but the way Leo saw me. Through his lens, I felt both vulnerable and empowered, as if each click of a shutter peeled back a layer of doubt I hadn't realized I carried. When he finally lowered the camera, there was a quiet satisfaction in his expression. "These might be some of my best yet," he said softly, more to himself than to me. I stayed in the chair a moment longer, letting the warmth of the morning and the weight of the moment settle over me. The new clothes, the gentle kiss, the care Leo had taken with every detail, it all made me feel celebrated in a way I hadn't expected. This birthday wasn't just about marking another year. It was about being seen, loved, and appreciated for exactly who I was. And in that, I found a quiet joy that lingered long after the photo shoot was over. Later that afternoon, I found myself drawn to the living room, where Leo was perched in front of his laptop, his back hunched slightly as he reviewed the photos. The soft glow of the screen illuminated his focused expression, and I could hear the rhythmic clicking of the mouse as he sorted through the images. Curiosity tugged at me. I wanted to see what he had captured, how he had seen me through his lens. I approached quietly and rested a hand on the back of his chair, peering over his shoulder. "Let me see," I said, my voice light but insistent. Leo stiffened slightly, his hand hovering over the trackpad. "Mom, it's not ready yet. I still need to edit some of these," he replied, a touch of nervousness in his tone. I smiled, sensing his hesitation but unwilling to back down. I don't mind seeing the raw versions. Come on, Leo, show me what you've got. He turned to look at me, his expression caught between embarrassment and reluctance. It's just they're not perfect yet. I was experimenting with angles and lighting. Some of them might look awkward. I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. Leo, I promise I won't judge. I just want to see how you've captured me. Please. He sighed, clearly outmatched, and slid the laptop slightly toward me. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. As he began clicking through the photos, I couldn't help but feel a flutter of anticipation. The images appeared on the screen one by one, and I was stunned. The woman in those photographs, me, looked radiant. Each picture told a different story. In some, I sat poised with the hat tilted just right, the scarf cascading over my shoulder. In others, there was an effortless quality, a candid smile, the tilt of my head, the sparkle in my eyes. Leo's ability to capture the subtleties of expression, the way light played on skin, and the textures of fabric was remarkable. Then, as he scrolled further, I saw something unexpected. There were shots of me doing yoga in the backyard, clearly taken without my knowledge. I remembered that morning well. The quiet stretch of my body against the early sunlight, the grounding sense of peace as I moved through poses. I had been completely unaware of the camera's presence. At first, I was startled. Leo, when did you take these? He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my gaze. A while ago. You looked so calm and strong. I thought it was beautiful, but I didn't want to interrupt, so I just captured it. My initial surprise melted into something else. Pride, warmth, and a deep appreciation for how he saw me. Those photos were unposed, unfiltered, and completely real. I looked strong, graceful, and alive in a way I hadn't noticed before. I turned to Leo, unable to keep the emotion out of my voice. These are incredible, Leo. Truly. You've managed to capture something I didn't even know I had in me. His cheeks turned a little pink, and he mumbled something about it just being practice, but I didn't let him off the hook. Leaning down, I kissed his cheek, letting the gesture convey the gratitude I couldn't put into words. You're amazing, I said softly, meaning every word. Thank you for this, for showing me a side of myself I'd almost forgotten. Leo finally looked at me, a sheepish but genuine smile spreading across his face. I just wanted you to see what I see, Mom. That's all. We sat together for a while longer, scrolling through the gallery, laughing at a few of the less-than-perfect shots and marveling at the moments he'd managed to preserve. It wasn't just a collection of photographs. It was a reminder of who I was, not just as a mother but as a woman with her own beauty, strength, and story. As evening settled over the house, I found myself alone in my room, the soft hum of the ocean waves drifting in through the open window. The laptop rested on my bed, still open to the gallery of photos Leo had taken. I couldn't help but revisit them, each image drawing me deeper into the person I had overlooked for so long. There I was, framed in soft golden light, my eyes holding a quiet confidence. The scarf draped over my shoulder looked elegant, the hat tilted just enough to add a touch of playfulness. Then there were the candid shots, my body moving fluidly through yoga poses, my face serene, unaware of the lens. Those photos didn't just show me as I appeared. They showed me as Leo saw me. Strong, graceful, beautiful. For years, I had buried those parts of myself under layers of motherhood, routine, and practicality. Leo's work had brought them to the surface, as if reminding me that I was still all those things and more. Later, I joined Leo in the living room. He had his camera bag open, carefully organizing his equipment. The sight of him so focused and passionate filled me with pride. I took a seat across from him, watching him work in the warm glow of the room. I found myself reflecting on how far we'd come, just the two of us. From the moment Daniel left, I had poured every ounce of myself into raising Leo, ensuring he grew up surrounded by love and creativity. And now here he was, a man with his own vision and talent, showing me parts of myself I had long forgotten. I asked Leo about his upcoming exhibition, curious about the stories he hoped to tell through his photographs. He spoke with a quiet intensity, describing how he wanted his work to capture more than just faces or places. He wanted it to capture emotion, connection, and the beauty of the everyday. His words stayed with me long after our conversation ended. That night, as I prepared for bed, I picked up one of the printed photographs he had framed for me. It was a candid shot from the yoga series, my silhouette outlined against the morning light. I placed it on my nightstand, letting it be the last thing I saw before I turned off the light. For the first time in years, I didn't just feel like a mother or a woman looking back on her life. I felt like someone with more chapters yet to write, with more stories waiting to unfold. As I drifted off to sleep, I found myself thinking about the future, not with hesitation, but with a quiet excitement. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. I was ready to embrace it one moment at a time.